Hi there. I wanted to do a quick video on how I keep my yarn inventory. It did take a little bit of organization initially, um, but now I know exactly what I have and where to find it. I have a backyard studio that I do music out of, and so I have a space back here that I can keep my stash of yarn. Um, so what I did was some of the boxes I had ordered, I just left them in the box. And so I labeled it box number 1, and I have the brand, I have the name, I have the name of the color, and the number in case I need to, Google search for it later. I have the weight number of the yarn. I have the ounces of each skein, what a full skein would be, that is. I also have how many yards are in a full skein. And then here I have the number of full skeins that I have. And if I have any partial skeins, I'll actually take them on a postal scale, weigh them, and I'll put the weight here in ounces. That way I can kind of get a rough estimate of how many yards I have. Okay, so let's take this line, for example, Touch of Alpaca. They're 7 ounces, and in this case, I had 5 skeins of this color black. But I also have an extra skein that weighed 3.5 ounces. So to get my total yards, which I like to have this total yardage in case there's a project that comes up and it tells you how many yards you need. And I can look here to see what do I have in my inventory that, let's say the yardage was 1900. I can look and see what I had that was over 1900. This one I could tell would not be enough, but these two, these three, this one, I'd all have plenty to do that project. So I like to have a total yards, and so the way I calculate that, if I click on it twice in Excel, you can see what I'm grabbing. So I'm grabbing the number of full skeins times the total yardage. That's this first part right here. This blue one is this one, 5 full skeins, times the total yard per skein, plus this purple cell is this one, my partial skein. Of course, this is when I weighed it on my postal scale, which you can use a postal scale, a kitchen scale, anything that will give you ounces. So I took my 3.5 ounces that I had already weighed. You want to divide that by the total ounces per skein. So if the skein normally comes in 7 ounces, you take your weight that you weighed divided by the total weight. That tells Excel the percentage of yarn you have left out of a whole skein. Then you multiply that one by the yards. And so this is my full skeins times the yard for each skein plus partial skein divided by the full ounce to get a percentage times the yards per skein. And that, gives me the total yardage I have. Of course, this is a rough estimate. 3.5 ounces, it's going to be roughly, 207.5 yards. I don't think the 1 yard of yarn really weighs that much. So this could be off by 1 or 2 yards, but it's a good ballpark way to do it. So yeah, what I've done is sometimes I'll take an order that I've ordered from Lion Brand, and I ordered these, and then I had a little bit of room for a couple extra skeins. So I just used the same box I got, and I labeled it box number 3. And so then I have my colors that I have in that box. I have the type of yarn. So this is Touch of Alpaca. This one's Scarfy. I have my brand. I kind of like to keep all the brands together. I like to try to keep the weight numbers together, but in this case, I think I just had room, so I threw a couple extra skeins in there. Again, this is the full weight ounce of 1 skein that normally comes in it. This is the weight number of the skein. This is a weight number 4 yarn, meaning the thickness. This is a weight number 5, so it's going to be a little thicker. These are how much ounces are for each skein. And then this is how many yards come per skein. And then this is how many skeins I have of each color. Any additional partial skeins that I have, I'm going to weigh and put that here, just so I can get a total yards that I have available in each color. And so I've done that for my inventory. You see my box numbers are over here. And yeah, I have a lot. So anyway, I'm going to show you, let's just kind of scroll through these solid purple bins. What I've done for these, if any of you are familiar with my patterns that I make, my mosaic crochet squares, I use a lot of solid colors, and I like to use the weight number 4 yarn, which is your Aran or worsted type of yarn. It's really easy to work with, and it creates a nice square that I can photograph. And so I like to have all these sort of together and out in the open. So my big twist, I had a lot of them, so I kind of lumped them together by color. So these were all the sort of roses, purples, some oranges, kind of warm colors, and then that was box or solid purple bin number 1. Again, the brand, the name of the type of yarn, the color, the weight number of the yarn, which is like the weight number, the thickness, how many ounces per skein, how many yards per skein, how many skeins do I have, if I had any partials, weigh it, put down the weight in ounces, and then how many total yards I have in those colors. Don't worry about this. I think when you make a formula one time, instead of having to type it in every cell, you just have to click on this little, click over here till it turns into a plus sign, and you can just drag it down, and it will automatically calculate the rest of these for you, which is the beauty of Excel. But if you go too far down and there's nothing here, you get a weird little error, but don't worry about it. You don't have to, you can just leave it. And so then you go to the next bin, and of course on my bins I put little sticky notes on them and labeled those as well. You can use a Sharpie or whatever. I like to reuse bins, so I don't really want to mark it up, but I can, sticky notes are easy because you can just take them back off. And so here I have more big twists, and these look like my, I kind of lumped them together. I think this was sort of my greens and blues, and I had some taupe that I didn't know what to do with, so I threw it in here. And as you take them out, you want to make a note of it. So I have some random skeins that I'm actually going to organize again today, because every time I make a new project, I take one out. I go look at what I have, I grab one, take it out for a project, and eventually you have like, a whole bin or 2 bins or a few tote bags full of just random skeins that have been out for projects, but you're done. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go back. I'm going to actually go through these bins just to make sure my numbers here match up what's actually in the bin. And because I sometimes take them out and forget to mark that I've taken them out. And so, yeah, so I have 6 bins total, but one of them was one of those miscellaneous bins in my house that I just had random things in there. So I'm going to go through and take my, random stuff that I've had out for projects for a while, and start sorting through them and putting them back where they go, as much that will fit. And if they don't fit, I'll, maybe I'll use this bin now for a 6th bin. So anyway, I will show you how I do that. Okay, so here are the yarn bits, scraps that I've taken out in the last few months. The purple bin I was talking about, that I need to kind of go through. I'm going to resort. Some of these I bought at Christmas and I never did put them in my inventory, so I kind of just have to go through and figure out what is what, where should it go. I got all this stuff in here, some random stuff. I have some weird random little skeins that don't have the label. I happen to know this is Red Heart Super Saver. I believe it's Marigold, maybe. Could be Safflower. I have some more of them. And again, yeah, just more. Oh yeah, it's this one. It's Saffron. That was close. Anyway, I just have to go through and just kind of reorganize. Some of these are floppy. I think I'm going to take my yarn winder and wind some of them up, weigh them. I'm going to go over here to where my yarn is. So you can see my bins here. My main bins right here that have my Red Heart and Big Twist solid colors. There's one under there. You know, it's not perfect, but honestly, I know exactly what I have and where to get it. Anybody who makes knows how our brains work. We live in chaos, but we know where everything is. So anyway, I'm going to start going through those and weighing them and seeing how much I have left. Here is my scale. I used to do eBay a few years ago, and so I just bought one of these scales. I think it's just a postal scale, digital postal scale. Works pretty good. You know, get you your ounces that you need for mailing things out. Has different modes and stuff. So anyway, I just have my skein of yarn here, one of them. Red Heart Super Saver in this charcoal color. I'm gonna weigh it. 4.6 ounces. So now what I'll do is I'll enter that into my spreadsheet. Okay, so what I'm doing now is I'm just taking those random skeins and I'm weighing them and recording them here. I figured I'd just do it here just to get them recorded and inventoried, and then what I'll do is go through those bins that I showed you before and see where there's room, try to add some of the light colors together. If one of these colors is already in that bin, I'm going to try to put these colors in the same bin so that I only have to go to one bin for certain colors that I don't have, like, you know, one of my saffrons is in bin number 1 and another saffron is in bin number 3, and I just like to have all the colors kind of together. And what I do once I get, like, I'm going to try to do the red hearts first because I like to copy and paste. So I know that my next one is a Red Heart Super Saver. It's kind of a periwinkle blue. I don't have the label, so in that case I may just put down the description with a question mark like I did here. And so I'm going to take my row, click on it with my left mouse button so it's highlighted. Now I take my right mouse button, click on copy, go to the next row, right click, and paste. Just paste the first one. And so now it copied this line down to here. However, now I can just change, this isn't saffron, this is a sort of periwinkle color. So I'm going to do that. I know that I have 4.6 ounces. It updated my little thing here. I don't need all these extra numbers. I just realized these are here. So what I like to do is actually in my total yards column, I'm just going to tell it to format all these to just have 2 decimals. I don't need all those decimals. So it's already defaulted to 2. So I hit OK. And all I did for that was I highlighted the column. I right clicked on it. I went to format. It was already on number, but it could be here, it could be somewhere else. Just have it go to number. Decimal places 2. You know, that's your personal preference. You could have it go to however you want, but I don't need that. I just seriously just need 2. Gives me a rough estimate. Hit OK. Change them to, you know, cleaner cell. It's easier to read. And I do like to have, visually I like to have my decimals all lined up because it's easier to like see what you got. So I'm just going to keep continuing to go through my red hearts. I can copy paste. Let's say I wanted to do maybe sort of a template for the next 10 cells. So I can, again, copy this, highlight it with my left mouse button, right click, hit copy. This time I can hold my left mouse button down, highlight the next, whatever, 10, whatever. So those are highlighted. Now I'm going to right click and hit paste. And you can see it just filled all those in, which is really nice. So now all I have to do is go through here. I'm just going to delete this. I'm going to delete my total skein weight because I don't know what these are going to weigh. But at least now I have a template ready to go for my next few Red Heart Super Savers. So I'll continue to fill this out and you know, fill out the color and how much weight is in each color. And the rest of this is already there. It's already going to calculate for me. So yeah, it shouldn't take long other than, you know, rifling through the stash, picking out the red hearts, weighing them, and then coming back here, sitting down and filling it out. So that's what I'm gonna do. Okay, so I went through and I got all the red hearts I could find. I have a lot of Joanne Big Twist in there that I need to go through, and a lot of Karen 1-pounders. Those are kind of my favorite. The red hearts, the Joanne Big Twist, and the Karen 1-pounders. I seem to use those the most for my mosaic squares because they're just good solid colors. They're not super expensive. The Big Twists are pretty soft. Karen 1-pounders are just a tad thicker, but it's a really good kind of soft, dense yarn. So that's kind of interesting for some mosaics as well. Just be careful when you are doing mosaics that you don't have, I've noticed sometimes I might have a red heart yarn that is maybe a print, one of these Monets, Mulberries, a print or a mix. They tend to run a teeny bit thinner. And so if you do one of those with maybe a Karen 1-pound type of yarn, sometimes it can warp a little bit, depending on how much the Karen 1-pounder takes up space-wise versus the other type of yarn. So kind of do it at your own risk. You may just experiment. But I found that like these ones are a little thinner than the Super Saver, the regular Super Saver, which are a teeny bit thinner than the Karen 1-pounders. So you can usually get by with the Karen 1-pound and the Red Heart Super Saver, or the Red Heart Super Saver and the Super Saver mixes. But yeah, to do the Karen 1-pound and the mix sometimes becomes a little bit problematic. But you can experiment. You know, sometimes just blocking it will also help. Okay, so here's my bins, my purple solid bins. Yes, I have a lot of yarn. Don't be too jelly. Anyway, it's a hobby, you know, and sometimes you have to spend a little money on hobbies and have a stash. And when you design patterns, you know, you kind of just want to have pretty much every color of the rainbow at your fingertips. So, and I do get a lot of sales for sure. I know there's certain colors that I use a lot of, and so I stock up when they're on sale. Anyway, these are my bins. I'm going to just go through my inventory and make sure that what is in the bin is actually what's on my spreadsheet. And then I'll actually see where I have room. These two, you know, I went by what I had, but there are a lot of Red Heart Super Savers. I think this one might be the Big Twist, but you know, sometimes I mix them because depending on space. Actually, these are all Big Twist. Most of these are Red Heart, although this Karen ended up in here because I had room. These are the big ones, the Karen 1-pounders. These cheap Michaels ones, which, you know, the yarn is, it's okay. It's a little thin, but, you know, when you're testing out patterns and stuff, it's, why not? Why not go cheap? So yeah, I'm gonna, like, this one has a lot of room. I have these all down in here, straight up and down. And so I could probably fit a whole nother, like, row on top of the whole thing. So I know I have room in this one. I have room in that one. I have room in that one. That one, maybe. These big ones kind of, they don't squish as much. So, but I do want to keep all the big ones together. I guess I don't have to, but I don't know. Maybe I'm just being anal. Anyway, so I'm just going to go through here. I'm going to double check on my inventory, make sure these all check out. And then I'll take the ones I just inventoried and decide where best to put them. So I like to have my blues and greens together, sometimes purples. This one ended up being sort of yellows and peaches and oranges and reds. And so I just kind of took what I had at the time and put them all in a bin that fit. I didn't really want to split up any colors, just because I think it's easier to get to things when you only have one bin to look at. So anyway, aren't those pretty? I love yarn. It's just so pretty. Anyway, that is how I do my inventory, and I hope it made sense to you, and hopefully it'll help you be able to organize your stash a little better. Thanks. I hate videotaping myself. Blech.